What if everything we've come to believe about the luxurious life of the past turns out to be a beautiful illusion? The Golden Age gave the world majestic mansions, glittering balls, and incredible wealth, all of which hid quiet, everyday dramas behind their facades. The lives of high society women seemed like a fairy tale, brimming with expensive silks, soft velvet, and precious stones. But a noblewoman's public image was always strictly governed by the harsh rules of etiquette and constant scrutiny from a conservative society. Their magnificent, multi-layered gowns weighed dozens of kilograms, and tight whalebone corsets literally made it difficult to breathe normally. Every glance and gesture was closely scrutinized by those around her, turning social life into an exhausting, never-ending theatrical performance. A woman of noble birth was physically unable to change clothes or wash herself on her own due to the intricate lacing of her fashionable gowns. Personal maids were constantly by her side, helping her perform even the simplest intimate daily tasks. These devoted maids were present at all times, completely depriving their mistresses of the right to private solitude. Watch the video to the end to find out what the true price of this splendor was and why noble ladies were never left alone, even in the dead of night. The hidden truth that everyone keeps quiet about lies in the layout of the most private rooms in wealthy mansions. The bedroom of a noblewoman during the Golden Age was not a place for privacy, but a veritable thoroughfare for the servants. The vast spaces were filled with bulky furniture, massive four-poster beds, and thick curtains that blocked out daylight. The house was designed so that servants could appear unnoticed from hidden corridors at any hour of the day. There was a complete lack of personal space, turning the room into a stage for daily routine duties. The room's space was divided into invisible zones, each with its own strict purpose. In the center always stood a huge mahogany bed, adorned with intricate carvings and heavy fabric draperies. These fabrics were meant to retain heat on cool nights, but at the same time created a feeling of a closed-in, stuffy space. Nearby stood a dressing table with a multitude of crystal bottles, silver brushes, and mirrors. It was here that the lady spent long hours preparing to go out into society under the watchful eye of her chambermaid. The luxurious interiors stood in striking contrast to the inner state of their inhabitants. The walls were upholstered with expensive silk, the floors were covered with soft carpets, and the ceilings were adorned with intricate stucco moldings. However, behind all this beauty lay the cold calculation of the architectural solutions of the time. Rooms were often designed in a suite, which meant there were no solid walls and a constant risk of sudden intrusion. Any sound echoed through the long corridors, depriving women of the chance to even cry quietly in complete solitude. Invisible doors, blending into the wallpaper pattern, were often located along the bedroom walls. These secret passages led to narrow staircases intended exclusively for the movement of servants. Thanks to such architectural tricks, the staff could appear in a room as if out of nowhere. The constant anticipation that a wall might open at any moment created unrelenting nervous tension. The house seemed like a living organism that was constantly watching its mistress's every move. Even when she was unwell, the noblewoman remained under round-the-clock surveillance by strangers. A special chair was placed next to her bed for a nurse or the maid on duty. Every sigh, groan, or careless movement was immediately noted and often became the subject of discussion in the kitchen. Society did not forgive weakness, so one always had to maintain dignity and hide one's true feelings. The bedroom turned into a strict ward where care mingled with harsh social control. Huge mirrors in heavy gilded frames multiplied reflections, robbing the space of its coziness. They served as a constant reminder of the need to live up to the ideal image of a socialite. A woman saw herself from every angle, noticing the slightest flaws in her hairstyle or posture. These glass surfaces seemed to absorb the coldness of the era, reflecting only an outward glamour. True emotions had to be hidden deep inside, leaving only a polite and detached half-smile for the mirrors. Under such conditions, the concept of personal freedom was completely erased, giving way to endless rules and social expectations. Life turned into a beautiful but cold theatrical performance, where every step was monitored by invisible spectators. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how this lack of privacy affected the inner lives of women back then, so please share your thoughts in the comments. Subscribing to the channel will help you stay updated on new historical investigations and dive deeper into the mysteries of past eras. Every opinion is incredibly valuable for creating future documentary projects. The secret that people pay thousands to uncover lies in understanding the true role of servants in wealthy households. Maids and chambermaids were not merely workers, but silent witnesses to every second of their mistress's lives. They knew absolutely everything about her, from her favorite perfumes to her deepest secrets and hidden fears. High society women were completely dependent on those who fastened their dresses and combed their hair. This dependence created a strange bond, filled with both trust and constant mutual suspicion. The chambermaid was considered the closest confidant, often spending more time with her mistress than her lawful husband. She was present during the most intimate moments of the morning toilet, assisting with washing and the selection of outfits. No letter could be read without the risk of the maid peering over her shoulder. Jewelry hidden in boxes was regularly checked and polished by those same hands. It was practically impossible to hide one's true mood from the woman who selected her outfits every day. The process of dressing during the Golden Age resembled a complex architectural construction requiring the participation of several people. Heavy petticoats, whalebone corsets, and stiff bodices were impossible to put on alone. Maids would pull the lacing tight, depriving the woman of the ability to breathe deeply and move freely. Physical discomfort became a constant companion, a reminder of the need to conform to ideals of beauty. In these moments, the mistress's helplessness before her servants was most vividly and painfully apparent. The night hours also passed under the watchful eye of specially assigned maids on duty. The girls often slept on narrow couches right in the mistress's room or in the adjoining hallway. Their task was to bring a glass of water, adjust a blanket that had slipped, or simply keep her company during insomnia. Absolute privacy was considered a sign of carelessness, and even a certain indecency for a high-ranking person. The bedroom always remained a shared space where the paths of two completely different social worlds crossed. Control over the wardrobe gave the lady's maid immense power over her mistress's appearance and schedule. The maid knew exactly which dress would be suitable for a morning visit and which should be worn to an evening reception. Often, it was she who made the final decision on which jewelry would complement the chosen outfit. Arguing with an experienced chambermaid was considered bad form, so many women simply deferred to her taste. Thus, even in choosing their own reflection in the mirror, ladies did not have complete freedom of action. Maintaining perfect order in the bedroom required the constant presence of maids and stoker. Huge fireplaces soiled the carpets with ash, and candles left wax stains on polished surfaces. Cleaning took place several times a day, forcing the mistress to constantly move from corner to corner. It was difficult to relax with a book when brushes and damp rags were constantly at work all around. The household operated on a strict schedule, to which all its inhabitants, without exception, were forced to conform. Trust in the servants often turned into bitter disappointments and public scandals. A dismissed maid could easily pass on her former mistress's secrets to the tabloids. Letters carelessly left on the dressing table were copied and used for cruel blackmail. Relationships with one's spouse were also under the close and unkind scrutiny of the household staff. The servants knew perfectly well how often the husband visited his wife's bedroom and in what mood he emerged from it. Separate beds were made every morning, and crumpled sheets told stories better than any words. It was impossible to maintain the illusion of a happy marriage when dozens of people witnessed the quarrels. The facade of happiness was maintained exclusively for high society, while the servants knew the true unflattering reality. These invisible threads of control entangled the lives of every woman of the Golden Age, leaving no room for maneuver. Their gilded cages were full of people, but it was precisely this crowd that made loneliness even more unbearable. Constant surveillance shaped their characters, forcing them to hide their true emotions behind a mask of icy composure. Was it even possible to keep one's sanity under such daily pressure from prying eyes? The next chapter will reveal exactly how these noble spouses shared their nighttime space. What no one ever saw took place early in the morning behind the tightly drawn curtains of expensive mansions. The process of waking up had nothing to do with the light and joyful start of a new day. A woman had to restore her perfect appearance before any family member saw her. To achieve this, stiff brushes, powders, and blushes were used to transform the face into a motionless, beautiful mask. The morning routine resembled preparations for a fierce battle, where flawless appearance served as the primary weapon. First, a maid would bring a heavy pitcher of ice-cold water for the mandatory face washing. It was believed that cold water gave the face a fresh look and tightened the pores, hiding signs of fatigue. No warm baths were allowed in the morning. Comfort was sacrificed to the strict conventions of the time. The lady had to endure the cold, sitting in a thin nightgown before an open mirror. Any discontent or whims were quashed with a cold reminder of the rules of etiquette. After the hair was styled, it was time to put on a complex, multi-layered structure of undergarments. Thin chemises were replaced by stiff corsets that cinched the waist to unnatural, frightening proportions. Women often experienced severe dizziness right in the middle of dressing due to a sharp lack of oxygen. Maids would simply let them inhale smelling salts and continue to mercilessly tighten the laces. Beauty demanded constant discomfort, which was perceived as an integral part of a woman's lot. Special pads were placed inside the corset to give the figure the correct, fashionable silhouette. This was followed by several heavy cotton skirts, which created the necessary volume but restricted movement. The weight of the full outfit could reach 10 kilograms, weighing heavily on fragile shoulders. Walking in such an outfit was a true test of endurance, requiring considerable physical strength. However, society demanded that the gait remain light, floating, and completely effortless. The choice of dress depended on the time of day, the season, and the status of the upcoming event. Morning gowns were made from less expensive fabrics, but remained just as covered up and uncomfortable. High collars dug into the neck, and narrow sleeves prevented the arms from moving freely. They had to change clothes several times a day, obeying the strict rules of social etiquette. This endless cycle of outfits turned life into a tiresome fashion show with no right to rest. Makeup during the Golden Age was supposed to look as natural as possible, as if it weren't there at all. Women used layers of powder and special creams to give their faces a fashionable, aristocratic pallor. Sitting for hours at the dressing table required incredible patience and complete control over one's emotions. Every movement of the maid's brush was practiced to the point of automaticity, transforming the face into a perfect porcelain mask. The desire to conform to society's aesthetic ideals forced one to completely forget about naturalness and personal comfort. When her makeup was finally complete, the woman was ready to appear before her husband and household. She emerged from the bedroom as if clad in armor, a knight ready for a social battle. Her true face, in accumulated fatigue, remained hidden beneath layers of powder and heavy silks. No one was to guess what efforts this flawless image had cost. The bedroom remained the sole silent guardian of the morning trials, witnessed only by the servants. The morning routine was not merely a process of getting dressed, but a daily act of submission to social norms. Every clasp and every pin reminded the woman of her place in this strict world. Invisible shackles made of expensive fabrics firmly kept noble ladies within the bounds of propriety. Viewers are invited to like this video to support the release of new historical investigations. Such support helps the channel grow and uncover more forgotten secrets of the past. The secret that will revolutionize the field of historical research lies in the truth about marital relationships in high society. Marriages during the Golden Age were arranged for the sake of merging fortunes, not out of mutual love. Therefore, having separate bedrooms was considered not a luxury, but a harsh necessity for both spouses. Women were given their own quarters, which became their personal, albeit crowded, stronghold. Romance gave way to cold calculation, and the marital bed often became a place for fulfilling a heavy duty. After the birth of the required number of heirs, the spouses often drifted apart permanently. Visits to the wife's bedroom ceased, and each began to live a separate life. Men sought entertainment in clubs, at the races, or at boisterous dinner parties in male company. Women, meanwhile, remained locked away in their luxurious chambers, passing their evenings embroidering and reading novels. The enormous bed became a symbol of loneliness and unfulfilled hopes for simple human happiness. The doors between the spouses' bedrooms were often locked with heavy bolts at the women's own initiative. It was the only way to protect themselves from unwanted nighttime visits from a man they did not love. Husbands rarely insisted on intimacy, preferring not to break the established unspoken rules. Society turned a blind eye to this emotional chasm as long as the family's facade remained flawless. The main requirement was the absence of public scandals and the observance of outward propriety under any circumstances. During periods when their husbands were away, women often experienced a strange sense of inner relief. The need to play the role of the ideal wife and engage in small talk before bed disappeared. One could simply lie in the dark without fear of a stranger's cold, judgmental gaze. However, this relief always bordered on a sharp sense of one's own uselessness and isolation. The surrounding wealth could not replace the emotional warmth so sorely lacking within these marble walls. Sometimes sounds of merriment from the men's quarters of the vast house would drift into the women's bedroom. A husband might host late-night card games or entertain friends for social conversation. Laughter and the clinking of glasses carried through the long corridors, reminding the wife of her loneliness. Divorce in those days was considered an unimaginable scandal, one that would ruin a woman's life forever. Therefore, most women chose to endure their husband's emotional coldness and distance in absolute silence. The bedroom became a place where tears of disappointment and bitter despair, invisible to the world, were shed. Maids would find wet handkerchiefs in the mornings, but never asked their mistress any unnecessary questions. Suffering became the unseen companion of a life of luxury, something it was not customary to speak of aloud. Wealth and noble titles proved to be a weak defense against simple human grief. Locked away in their beautiful rooms, the women quietly withered, deprived of the right to genuine feelings. The marital bedroom became a monument to their stolen youth and completely shattered dreams. Can such a life truly be called genuine happiness, despite all the surrounding splendor? The next chapter will reveal the truth about the secrets hidden within the familiar evening routine. The end of a long day in the Victorian mansion was a strictly calibrated ritual. When the last guest left the drawing room, the house sank into a deceptive silence. The mistress of the house slowly ascended the grand staircase, accompanied by the soft rustle of silk skirts. Her devoted chambermaid was already waiting, having prepared everything necessary for the lengthy bedtime routine. The painstaking process of shedding the heavy armor of a hectic social life was about to begin. Removing her jewelry was the first and most important step in this evening routine. Heavy diamond necklaces and massive earrings were carefully placed in velvet-lined boxes. The jewels were counted and often locked in a safe by the mistress of the vast house herself. Without these glittering symbols of power, the woman seemed more fragile and vulnerable. The cold metal no longer pressed against her skin, bringing long-awaited physical relief. Then came the task of removing the elaborate evening gown and the stiff, constricting corset. The maid carefully undid the tight laces, allowing her mistress to take her first deep breath. Deep marks from the embedded whalebone stays often remained on her body. Freedom from this constricting structure was always accompanied by a quiet sigh of genuine relief. Heavy fabrics were replaced by a light cotton chemise adorned with the finest handmade lace. Rubbing in various thick ointments and creams was also part of the mandatory evening routine. Hands were generously coated with glycerin and tucked into special soft cotton gloves until morning. Thick mixtures based on rose water and natural almond oil were applied to the face. Maintaining a flawless appearance was considered a woman's primary duty to society. These procedures were less about self-care and more about the arduous work of maintaining one's status. Just before bedtime, it was customary to drink a small cup of warm milk or light broth. This simple drink was served in elegant porcelain cups on a silver tray. It was believed that a warm drink calmed the nervous system and promoted sound, healthy sleep. In reality, it was just another attempt to warm up within the cold stone walls. The drink left a pleasant aftertaste, briefly distracting one from sad thoughts of loneliness. The bed was prepared for sleep with particular care and attention to the smallest details. The heavy down comforter was fluffed, and the cold linen sheets were ironed with a metal hot water bottle. This created a small island of warmth in the vast, drafty room. A large number of pillows were arranged in a specific order to support the back. Sleeping completely flat was considered harmful to proper blood circulation and complexion. The lighting in the room was gradually dimmed to a minimum, leaving only a faint glow. The gas lamps were turned down, and the candles in the candelabras were carefully extinguished with special long caps. Darkness slowly filled the corners of the huge bedroom, making the massive furniture seem frightening. Shadows danced on the walls, creating an unsettling and very oppressive atmosphere. Only a small nightlight was left on in case of a sudden awakening in the dark. However, even in their sleep, noble women were unable to fully relax and let go. The fear of ruining their hairstyles forced them to control their movements, even in the dead of night. They were advised to sleep exclusively on their backs, without turning over or creasing their lace collars. Nighttime rest was merely a continuation of the arduous daytime work of maintaining a perfect image. True freedom remained an unattainable dream, hidden behind heavy canopies. What is commonly kept secret at the highest levels pales in comparison to the secrets of Victorian bedrooms. Searching through personal belongings was considered perfectly normal practice in distinguished aristocratic families. A wealthy lady's writing desk was never truly a private space in the home. A husband had every legal right to read any letters addressed to his own wife. Diaries containing personal experiences were hidden in secret compartments that could easily be opened by curious servants. Maids often received extra money from the master of the house for regular secret spying. They checked dress pockets, searched through wastebaskets, and eavesdropped on the mistress's conversations. This system of covert informants destroyed any nascent trust among the mansion's inhabitants. Living in constant fear of betrayal was unbearably difficult for a woman's fragile psyche. The house turned into a beautifully furnished maximum security prison with round-the-clock invisible guards. Reading was also strictly controlled by the head of the household or older female relatives. Novels were considered dangerous for a woman's mind, capable of sparking completely unnecessary fantasies. Only boring philosophical treatises or edifying stories about absolute virtue were permitted. If a woman wanted to read something else, she had to hide the books deep under the mattress. Any manifestation of independent thought was ruthlessly suppressed at the very earliest stage. Doctors' visits to the bedroom were never conducted in private with a high-ranking patient. A chambermaid or a strict relative was always present during the examination, closely monitoring propriety. The doctor was not allowed to breach the distance or ask overly direct questions about her well-being. Diagnoses were made at random, based solely on checking the pulse and the general complexion. Because of such foolish modesty, many problems developed into chronic fatigue and lingering sadness. Financial independence was an absolute illusion even for incredibly wealthy heiresses. All the money brought as a dowry came under the strict control of the husband. A woman had to account for every penny spent, begging for funds for new outfits. The lack of their own money deprived them of the opportunity to escape the subtle domestic tyranny. Wealth surrounded them everywhere, but not a single gold coin actually belonged to them. Meetings with friends and acquaintances were permitted only at specific times and on certain days of the week. The guest list was carefully vetted by the husband for social status and trustworthiness. Any friendship with women of questionable reputation was immediately and irrevocably cut off. Social interaction was reduced to empty small talk about the weather and the season's latest fashion trends. Genuine, sincere support was a rarity in this cold world of strict calculation. Relationships with distant relatives were also built on a strict hierarchy and cold calculation. Visits from a mother-in-law or aunts felt more like official inspections than warm family gatherings. Every detail of the bedroom's interior was subjected to critical scrutiny to ensure it matched the family's high status. A woman was expected to humbly listen to lectures, with no right to voice her own opinion. The family acted as the strictest judge, unforgiving of even the slightest deviation from tradition. The bedroom, conceived as a place of rest, turned out to be the center of this vast system of oppression. Every square foot of the luxurious space served a single purpose: to prevent a woman from becoming her true self. Constant surveillance drove her mad, sapping her last reserves of inner resistance. How long can the human psyche withstand such colossal pressure without consequences? The next chapter holds the answer to the question of what lay hidden behind the dazzling illusion of wealth. The opulence of the interiors served as a perfect screen behind which deep emotional poverty was hidden. Heavy velvet curtains embroidered with gold thread cost a truly incredible fortune. However, these same curtains blocked out fresh air, making the atmosphere in the room stuffy and oppressive. Expensive furniture made from rare woods amazed the imagination with its massiveness and carvings. But the abundance of sharp corners and hard backs made it completely unsuitable for comfortable relaxation. The wallpaper in the bedrooms was often ordered from Europe and featured bright, saturated colors. Emerald green was particularly popular, a color achieved by adding toxic substances. Women slept in rooms whose walls slowly released harmful chemical compounds. Chronic fatigue was attributed to feminine weakness, rather than the detrimental effects of the interior. The beauty of the decor was literally destroying the health of its wealthy inhabitants. Bathrooms with running water remained a rare and unattainable luxury for a long time. Water for washing and bathing had to be carried in jugs up steep grand staircases. Copper basins and porcelain jugs looked elegant, but were completely impractical to use. Hot water cooled quickly in the chilly rooms of a massive Victorian stone house. A proper wash was a complicated and time-consuming process, requiring the constant assistance of a maid. The abundance of fragile items on the dressing tables posed a constant threat of damage to property. Murano glass vials, silver tweezers, and sharp hairpins required careful handling. A single awkward movement could result in a broken mirror or spilled expensive French perfume. These objects surrounded the woman, demanding constant attention and exceptionally careful care. Attending to an endless array of luxury items took up a tremendous amount of time and energy. The marble-clad fireplaces looked majestic and served as the main decoration of any bedroom. However, their heat was sufficient only to warm a small area directly in front of the burning fire. Drafts always blew through the corners of the spacious rooms, and in winter the temperature could drop very low. Women wrapped themselves in shawls and fur capes just to stay warm in their own homes. Wealth could not provide basic physical comfort during the harsh winter months. The lighting remained dim and uneven, despite the crystal chandeliers and expensive candles. The flickering light strained the eyes when trying to read or do painstaking embroidery in the evening. Gas lamps often smoked and emitted an unpleasant, pungent odor that spoiled the fresh air. Life unfolded in perpetual twilight, which negatively affected the ladies' overall mood. Bright sunlight rarely penetrated the tightly drawn curtains of the expensive mansions. The jewels kept in the bedroom were not only adornments, but also a very heavy burden. They had to be constantly cleaned and protected from thieves and the envious glances of friends. When a woman put on diamonds, she became a beautiful showcase for displaying her husband's status. The weight of the massive necklaces caused incredible fatigue in the neck by the end of a long social evening. The sparkle of rare stones blinded those around her, preventing them from seeing the sadness in the owner's eyes. Thus, this entire gilded cage was built on constant contradictions and inconveniences. The outward glamour concealed beneath it a perpetual chill and endless years-old dust. Life in luxury turned out to be hard labor, requiring constant overcoming of physical discomfort. The interiors were designed to impress the guests, not for the convenience of the hosts. The woman was merely the most beautiful and expensive object in this vast collection of things. Social pressure did not leave women even behind the tightly closed doors of their bedrooms. Rules of etiquette strictly regulated when one was supposed to go to bed and when one was supposed to wake up. Any deviation from the accepted routine immediately aroused a great deal of suspicion among those around her. Breakfast in bed was permitted only in extremely rare cases of obvious mild indisposition. A healthy woman was expected to rise early and immediately attend to her social duties. Public opinion even dictated the choice of styles for nightgowns and evening robes. They had to be modest, completely concealing the contours of the body, yet expensive. Lace was permitted only on collars and cuffs, symbolizing status rather than drawing attention. Fabrics were chosen to be opaque to avoid even the slightest hint of vulgarity or accessibility. A woman's body belonged to society, which strictly controlled its appearance at all times. The morning mail often brought stacks of calling cards and invitations requiring an immediate reply. Sitting at her dressing table, the lady of the house had to dictate polite letters and plan her day. Every decision was evaluated in terms of its benefit to the reputation of the entire noble family. Declining a tedious reception could be seen as an insult and lead to harsh isolation. There was practically never any free time left for personal interests or simple idleness. Pregnancy in those days was considered a delicate condition that should be concealed for as long as possible. Women locked themselves in their rooms so as not to embarrass society with their changed figures. Childbirth took place at home, often in those same closed-off and poorly ventilated bedrooms. The presence of male doctors was considered improper, so women in labor relied on the help of midwives and maids. Fear of the unknown hung in the air, making this period extremely anxious and lonely. The family's reputation hung by a thread, dependent on the impeccable behavior of its female members. Any careless gossip born within the walls of the bedroom could ruin the career of an influential husband. A woman served as the silent guardian of honor, with no right to make even the slightest mistake. This immense pressure forced her to weigh every word and strictly control every emotion. Life turned into an endless, rigorous exam, with high society acting as the judge. Even religious life was subject to strict regulations and constant external scrutiny. Morning and evening prayers were recited aloud in the presence of the servants to demonstrate piety. Sincere faith was often replaced by the formal performance of rituals for the sake of maintaining a perfect image. A beautifully published book always lay in a prominent place on the bedside table as a symbol of virtue. Spiritual life, like physical life, was completely devoid of genuine freedom and privacy. Social gatherings were often discussed in the evenings in the bedroom with particular care and attention. Every glance, every word spoken, and every detail of another's ball gown was analyzed. In this endless fair of vanity, it was absolutely impossible to relax for even a single minute. Rivalry among the ladies was encouraged, forcing them to spend vast sums on new dresses. The bedroom served as a sort of headquarters where cunning strategies for social survival were devised. Society's golden cage proved stronger than any metal bars or heavy locks. It was built on the fear of condemnation and the obsessive desire to conform to imposed ideals. Women themselves upheld these invisible walls, afraid of being cast out into the cold outside world. Their richly decorated bedrooms became a symbol of this voluntary yet agonizing confinement. The perfect order in the room reflected the rigid order in the minds and hearts of the people of that era. The contrast between external splendor and physical discomfort was felt particularly keenly in the bedrooms. Expensive silks imported from India felt pleasantly cool against the skin only on rare hot days. However, for most of the year, this chill became a real ordeal for the mansion's inhabitants. Silk offered no warmth, forcing them to cover themselves with several layers of heavy, itchy woolen blankets. The weight of these covers pressed down on their chests, making it hard to breathe and preventing restful sleep. The handmade lace adorning the pillows left deep red marks on the faces of the sleeping women. The beauty of the expensive bedding was valued far more highly than its practicality and softness. The finest threads tore easily, requiring constant repair by the skilled hands of experienced seamstresses. One had to sleep on such a bed with the utmost care so as not to ruin the delicate fabric. Comfort was sacrificed for aesthetics, turning rest into a complex and stressful task. The canopies above the bed served as a kind of insulated tent within a huge room. They were sewn from thick velvet or tapestry fabric, capable of retaining at least a little heat. Draped for the night, the canopy created an illusion of security, but severely restricted the flow of oxygen. The air inside quickly became heavy and stuffy, causing morning weakness and fatigue. It was like sleeping in a beautiful, expensive chest, tightly sealed with a heavy lid. Nighttime drafts remained the main problem in huge Victorian mansions with high ceilings. The wind swept through the long corridors, seeping through small cracks in the warped window frames. To protect against drafts, long velvet bolster pillows were placed under the doors. Sometimes women had to sleep in special nightcaps to keep their heads warm. Winter nights felt like a survival test in harsh and uncomfortable field conditions. Fireplaces cooled by early morning, leaving behind only the smell of bitter ash. The temperature in the bedroom dropped so much that the water in the wash basin could turn to ice. Emerging from under a thick blanket into this frozen world was a true test of willpower. That is precisely why the morning ritual of dressing required the assistance of maids, who warmed the linens in advance. Luxury offered no refuge from the simple chill of freezing in one's own stately chambers. Heavy fabrics absorbed moisture perfectly, which had seeped into the old stone walls. The bedding often felt damp to the touch, forcing one to wrap oneself in extra woolen shawls. Copper hot water bottles filled with coal provided only temporary relief, cooling quickly during the long night. Constant chilliness became a familiar backdrop to life, something one was not even supposed to complain about. Physical discomfort was accepted as the inevitable price of living in majestic, historic interiors. The color scheme of the bedrooms was often dictated not by personal taste, but by the season's fashion trends. The fashion for deep burgundy and dark blue tones made the rooms even more gloomy and cramped. Dark wallpaper absorbed the light of the few candles, shrinking the space to the size of a small box. The eyes quickly grew weary of such an abundance of rich, heavy colors and intricate floral patterns. One longed to break free into the open air, but the massive bedroom doors remained securely locked. Physical cold intertwined with inner loneliness, creating an atmosphere of utter hopelessness. Expensive fabrics could not warm a frozen soul, and lace could not replace genuine emotions. The bedroom was turning into a beautiful museum, where the main exhibit was a living but unhappy woman. The splendor of the interiors only underscored the tragedy of this life situation, hidden from the eyes of others. Luxury turned out to be the coldest and most ruthless jailer of all possible options. The hardest trial for women of the Golden Age was absolute inner loneliness. Paradoxically, it coexisted with the constant presence of dozens of people in the house. Maids, footmen, and distant relatives were always swarming around, creating the appearance of a bustling life. However, among this vast crowd, there was not a single person who could be trusted. Every word could be used against the speaker, turning sincerity into a dangerous luxury. Friendships among high society women were often superficial and competitive. Friends could easily turn into sworn enemies over a carelessly spoken phrase or a dress that looked too similar. Visits to other women's bedrooms resembled secret missions aimed at uncovering a rival's weaknesses. Sharing one's true marital problems meant admitting defeat in the eyes of high society. Therefore, conversations were reduced to discussions of the weather, theater premieres, and new powder recipes. Melancholy became the official companion of the era, concealing the deep sorrow of thousands of women. The true cause of this sadness was a sense of one's own uselessness within the vast machinery of a wealthy household. Life passed them by, leaving only a bitter aftertaste of disappointment from endless restrictions. The bedroom became the place where this inner emptiness was felt most acutely and distinctly. Wealth could not fill the emotional void created by the lack of freedom of choice. Novels and poetry, secretly brought in by the servants, often became her only escape from reality. Books allowed her to live thousands of other lives, full of adventure, genuine emotions, and freedom. Reading by the dim light of a candle, a woman could forget her confinement for a few hours. The characters in the books became closer and dearer to her than the real cold people who surrounded her every day. However, returning to reality after turning the page was even more painful. Many tried to find solace in charity, organizing funds, and helping those in need. This gave the illusion of control over the situation and brought at least some benefit to society. But even these noble impulses were strictly controlled by husbands and committees of important trustees. A woman served merely as the pretty face of a charitable organization, making no real decisions. Genuine help was often replaced by beautiful but empty speeches at pretentious charity balls. The huge mirrors now evoked only fear and a desire to turn away from one's own reflection. They mercilessly recorded every new wrinkle and gray strand in the elaborate, towering hairstyles. The former beauty, which had demanded so many sacrifices, vanished without a trace, leaving behind only fatigue. The women ordered the mirrors to be draped with thick fabric so as not to witness the process of their own withering. The illusion of eternal youth shattered against the cruel reality of merciless and inexorable time. The silence in the bedroom became absolute, interrupted only by the ticking of the clock and the creaking of old floorboards. The struggle for influence and social status lost all meaning in the face of approaching eternity. At that moment came the realization of just how empty and false the entire life they had lived was. Millions of dollars spent had not brought a shred of real, simple human happiness. The gilded cage was turning into a beautiful museum where human aspirations were being buried alive. The history of Victorian bedrooms is not a story of luxurious fabrics and expensive furniture. It is a tragic story of how society systematically destroyed women's freedom under the pretext of care. Wealth did not protect against sorrow. It merely made that sadness more refined and hidden. Real life unfolded beyond the walls of these palaces, where noble women were strictly forbidden entry. The bedroom has forever remained a symbol of their beautiful yet unbearably cruel imprisonment. These silent witnesses to the past force us to look at familiar historical images in a completely different light. Behind the beautiful dresses and ballroom dances lay the harsh reality of total control and loneliness. Write in the comments what other historical topics and forgotten secrets should be revealed in future videos. Viewers are encouraged to subscribe to the channel so they don't miss out on exploring the unknown pages of history. Audience support helps create new, in-depth, and honest documentary projects.